注がれた光の雨、瞳に映ったこの世界を守るため立ち向かう。それは心の野生が隅でまた霞み始めてる。決意揺らぎそうでも閉ざされた空、その鍵を壊せばそう握られた刃はまだ持て余されて加速する共鳴が言霊を脈打たせてく。注がれた光の雨、瞳に映ったこの世界を守るため決意を新たに変えつなぎ絶やさないよう立ち向かう。それは先人にきらめくだごとき流星、心もやしが痩せたもしも最後が決められるのならば勇気を持って踏み出した意志貫いたままで運命を落とす定め荒ぶる流れに任せて戦える。注がれた光の雨、瞳に映ったこの世界を守るため決意を新たに変え
And perfect. We are live. Welcome, everybody. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever it is that you're tuning in today. We are joined by Garth from the Wonderman team. Garth, if you wouldn't mind, go ahead and introduce yourself to the ChainBoost community. Who are you? What do you do with Wonderman Nation, and how did you get your start in blockchain?
Sure. It's a big question in one. So yeah, I'm Garth Mitchell, the creative director for Wonderman Nation, and the managing director for Godi Entertainment and Godi Outsourcing for people who know those companies. Far out. Yeah, how to get started in blockchain and game dev. I go back to the start quickly. So I started working in the games industry in 1998. So I've been making games for 24 years. I was working on N64 and PlayStation 1 games. First published game was South Park Rally on
Oh,
N64,
you're
PS1, PC.
sorry to interrupt. You're a South Park guy. We're gonna have some fun today.
Yeah,
I'm
I'm
a
a South
massive
Park
South
guy.
Park fan.
Yeah. I mean, it was the game that my studio worked on, so I didn't get
Oh,
to pick, but it was a dream title. I mean, South Park had been out for like a year or two at that point. It was kind of like new on the block, so it was
yeah.
pretty hot. Um, yeah, so I mean, you might if we're going to diverge a little bit, you might see some sort of quirky South Parkiness in Wonderman Nation as well. Like it's a bit humorous and doesn't take itself too seriously. um, anyway, we diverge. Um, so yeah, so uh, in terms of blockchain, yeah, I was working in this games company, Tails Interactive, in 2000. The company would play a lot of Quake 3 on LAN at lunches and sort of beer o'clock on Friday. Um, Counter Strike was released version 1.6, and it just blew up in the office. So
Yeah.
I actually kind of refer to that as my start in blockchain because um, that was for me like the big kind of aha moment of like this is going to be globally connected because we were playing online with LANs and overseas with people. So that was like okay, well, gaming is going online and it's going to be people playing all around the world and there's going to be tournaments and there's going to be digital currencies. So that was kind of the start actually. And then in 2010 we started Godi Entertainment with the view to build games for this future play to earn. Like, it wasn't called play to earn at the time, but
Yeah.
yeah, we started in 2010 to build towards that. So we had our eye on blockchain from the start. We've done releases in 2020. We released 22 Races Series, the game on the banner here behind me, and we released Pavilion Hub, which is a blockchain gaming platform. We've done a lot of stuff. That's I guess the nutshell version.
Yeah. I like that you touched on almost like CS:GO being the start of like your blockchain gaming experience. Like that was one of the very, very early days of loot crates and random boxes, and people almost treated the weapons that they were able to get, the different guns, the different knives, almost as NFTs and digital currencies that you could trade and essentially make money on. So I like that you touched on that because it's something that not a lot of people know about. It's very
Yeah,
it's very kind of hidden in the background, even despite CS:GO being this massive title. But that element of play to earn and blockchain gaming, it it's very apparent there. Even though it's not quite blockchain gaming, obviously it's not quite play to earn. There a lot of the same elements are in place with that. So I like that you touched on that as well.
yeah. I mean, if we can riff on this slightly, I mean, even World of Warcraft out at the time,
Hmm.
there's the whole kind of gold farming thing, and there's this black market existed around selling your own digital assets, and it was this sort of like, oh, don't do it, they'll ban your account. It's just absolutely bonkers that there's this need that people want to trade their digital assets, and it becomes this black market. Sort of everyone's if you're not in those games and you don't know the scene, you don't know that it's happening, but if you know the scene, you know how they do it and how it's done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So for everybody who is joining us today, we're talking about Wonderman Nation. Obviously, we're joined by Garth, creative director here. The IDO for Wonderman Nation is happening on the 21st, next Thursday. If you haven't already expressed interest, go to chainboost.io. Their project page is going to be right there. Over the course of the stream today, we are going to be talking a lot about Wonderman Nation, a lot about GameFi, a lot about NFTs. We are also going to be doing a lot of giveaways over the course of the stream. We are giving away IDO whitelist spots, as well as I believe we mentioned BUSD, so we are going to be doing cash prizes on top of that as well. So if you have any questions for Garth, any questions about Wonderman Nation before the IDO, make sure that you drop your question down in the comment box there. And if we see it, if it's a good question, if we select it, you will win prizes. We do need to reach out to you over Twitter. So make sure that you are following ChainBoost on Twitter if you do win. That way we know exactly who to contact and send the prize to. So, Garth, let's get into Wonderman Nation, man. What, for anybody who doesn't know, what is Wonderman Nation, and what is the vision for Wonderman Nation in the GameFi and the NFT space?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I often say with Wonderman Nation, it's kind of if you go check out the page and I mean, even if you read the website, watch the trailer, you kind of see it's a bit of a wacky IP. So I often say there's kind of two parts to Wonderman Nation. So then there's a GameFi side, and then there's kind of the kind of meta story part of Wonderman Nation. So I'll talk about the story side first, just quickly. So we've obviously got the games, but what we want to do is have like trailers, have comics, and like sort of short clips and animatics, kind of like mentioned South Park and stuff like this. So there's going to be sort of story and things happening sort of outside, even just sort of across Twitter accounts. So it's kind of like a metaverse-y kind of story arc going on there. So that's kind of the one side. And then on the game side, we're doing things quite differently. It tap into some questions we'll have about the dual token economy, etc. But essentially, we're making more than one game is something that is kind of interesting. So the first part of Wonderman Nation is this battle style game. We often refer to Final Fantasy as one of the kind of core style kind of battle mechanics for that, but with extra stuff which we can get into. But plus like a crypto kitty style breeding, and then the Axie Infinity sort of dual token model. And we're making another game as well, which is like we call it the arcade metaverse play. So it's a way to have another version of exploration where you can move tokens and NFTs between the two games. So
nice. Okay.
Long answer.
Yes, long answer, but there's a lot to talk about there. You specifically, you mentioned the crossplay metaverse that I've seen just by perusing your white paper. You mentioned that. You also mentioned how there are elements of gameplay from different titles as well, different play-to-earn titles, traditional gaming titles like Final Fantasy, like Axie, like CryptoKitties, as you mentioned. If you don't mind me asking, what other games besides those, or in addition to those, influence the creation of Wonderman Nation? Like if there were a lot of games that you maybe took small elements to and kind of infused those into this game, what would those be, and what kind of elements can users expect when they log in and they start playing the game?
Yeah, well, I guess in terms of it's really hard. Like I've been making games for 24 years, and I've made a lot of games. Like I didn't sort of talk about this. Like I've worked on over 30 published games, and I've been the lead artist on a Star Wars game and Transformers games. I've worked on LA Noire and Far Cry, and I've worked on a whole lot of games. So like all of that stuff kind of like builds up, and my team are the same. Sorry, I should say, like the team all have around 22 years game dev experience. So this stuff kind of builds up a library of things. You can't always pinpoint the exact point of reference or where things have come from. But I guess like in terms of the gameplay, again, we mentioned Final Fantasy is kind of like core battle mechanic. But look, Final Fantasy is a bigger game than just a battle, and a lot of the gameplay is kind of in the battle scene is meta to that. It's the sort of getting weapons and building your magic and stuff like that. So we don't have that in Wonderman Nation, but what we have is more stuff in the battle scene. So we refer to how the creatures can be bred. So there's different attributes that come with the different creatures, so that they will have different strengths and weaknesses. That's probably more like a League of Legends hero style gameplay. So you kind of each player wants to pick characters that sort of can attack or defend well, and work as a team. So then team play is the next one. So you can do certain special actions as team members. So it's not just about sort of individual, I want to attack you. It's kind of like a character can do something and his teammate can affect that, so they can kind of work together. There's also the environmental interactions. So as you move around the environment, we compare this to kind of chess actually. So you can kind of change your position on the screen, and that changes how you attack or defend. It changes moves that you can do. And then while doing those, and then there's the team choice. So as you start the game, again, it's kind of like chess. It's like choosing black or white. One player goes first, and that changes how you choose your heroes. But that brings with it some items that you get. So depending on who you play for, Team Wonderman or Hometown Team, you get different items that you can use, and the creatures can use those items in different ways. So it's like a lot of sort of simple elements, but when you combine them together, it creates a very rich gameplay mechanic.
Yeah, and you touched on it a little bit before, we dove into it. The just amount of experience that you have in the gaming industry, being in it since 1998, and the what you said 30 different plus titles that you've worked on in the past. So yeah, challenging question. It might be a little bit tough to pinpoint that exact influence for different parts of the game. I understand that, but it sounds like there are a lot of different experiences and a lot of different factors that play into the elements of Wonderman Nation. The gameplay mechanics, the breeding, the tokenomic aspect of it all. So very immersive ecosystem. And I like that you did touch on that Wonderman Nation. It's not just going to be one game. It'll end up being multiple games within the same ecosystem. For those who are familiar with the ChainGuardians ecosystem, we like to talk about the fact that we are a gaming ecosystem. It's not just one game. It's going to be multiple different games, multiple different platforms, metaverses, things like that. So it's definitely something that resonates with a lot of our viewers and a lot of people in our community, that aspect of just creating this monstrous gaming ecosystem versus just that one game title and then creating another game title separate from Wonderman Nation, for instance, but having all of that tied together in the same kind of holistic ecosystem. It's definitely something that a lot of people in our community can resonate with, and yeah, they can relate to it.
Yeah.
Now,
I mean, if I can riff on that just super quickly, I think it's a cool way to do it. I think there's two sides to that which I really like. One is that not every game is for every person, but if you have an ecosystem, it's kind of like a theme park. Like certain people, you might like a bit of everything, but you like certain kinds of rides or certain sort of places. So if you have a really sort of cohesive ecosystem, then people can find the places that they like. So you can kind of have communities within communities. And then also on the token side, especially with the dual token economy, if you have multiple titles, then it gives you a lot more gameplay balancing. And that's the thing. I mean, people often ask us about, compare it to the Axie Infinity model and the dual token system, and they can talk about what went wrong with Axie Infinity, which is great to talk about. And one of the things there is, like with gameplay, I talk about painting yourself into a corner. You never want to paint yourself into a corner. So you've always got to sort of leave a few sort of levers to pull and ways to balance. And then if you've got two games, it gives you double those kind of levers, so you can kind of balance the economy between them and create more use cases and create the right sort of input output levels to keep things balanced. So yeah, it's great for the economy, and it's great for the community.
Yeah, and like you mentioned, it's about creating balance in the economy. It's also about creating versatility, right? And different tokens are going to have different use cases in those same economies. One might be more of a utility token that you can only earn by playing the game. One might be more so a governance token, right? Which I believe is the Wonderman Nation token. The Wonderman Nation token obviously being more the governance token of the ecosystem. If you don't mind, I do want to talk about that a little bit. Is the use cases, the utility of the Wonderman token? Obviously, that is what we're here to talk about today. Not just Wonderman Nation, but also the Wonder token before the IDO. So if you wouldn't mind, I do want to ask you, what kind of utilities are users going to be able to expect from the Wonder token after IDO?
Okay, sure. So I'd probably like to touch on the Nectar token a little bit so you can kind of see the counterplay between them, because one breeds the other. Like staking is the first thing I mentioned, I guess. So you can stake the Wonder token to kind of reward Nectar. So yeah, on the governance side, so staking is one thing. Sort of DAO functionality, so getting to vote on inflation of Nectar and getting to vote on upcoming gameplay features will be another thing. And then beyond that, obviously buying, so using in the game. So you've got the buying of the creatures with Wonder. You've got buying of food. We haven't touched on the food NFTs yet, but buying food NFTs with Wonder. And then I guess if we could sort of say in that game, you've got like ship part NFTs as well. So that kind of carries over to the Metaverse arcade game. So then in the Metaverse arcade game, you've got ship part NFTs that get brought across. You can build your ship, and then you can use the Wonder token as the fuel for the ship in that Metaverse game. So that's the way to fuel your experience in the Metaverse arcade game. And then through that, by filling your ship with the Wonder token as fuel, then you get to, if you do well, you get to reach new planets where you can discover new creatures, which can come back to the main battle game.
Wow. So a lot of different utilities and use cases just within the game itself, it sounds like. And in addition to staking, DAO governance, like you mentioned, and I do love everything that you talked about there, because it's so important, especially now that people are getting into blockchain gaming, they're getting into the play to earn space, but they don't necessarily know all of crypto's functionalities. And a lot of, if they played more traditional games, for instance, they might be more familiar with that one token powers all model, but ultimately that one token that's in this game or this one, off-chain in-game currency, it's used so in such a diversified manner amongst all these different games. So the fact that you have built out such immersive use cases for it, and ultimately the Wonder token is going to be that token that allows you to increase your exploration, to vote on governance proposals, and like you mentioned, the inflation of the Nectar token as well. I think that's super critical for people who are wanting to get into the ecosystem. And we touched on it a little bit, what Axie Infinity might have, done wrong. There's differing arguments about what they've done right, what they've done wrong, but they are one of those kind of the first mover of the GameFi space, in that they created the first title where people could log into the game and earn sustainable income over the course of just playing for X amount of hours each day. But they were the first to really coin that two token model, that governance token, and then the utility token that's only earned within the game. But there are some people who they challenge that ecosystem a little bit. They see the one token with the governance token, and then they see SLP, and there's definitely things that people feel like could have been done differently or could have been done better. So I like that you touch on that element, because I do think there are learning opportunities with Axie. Obviously, being the first mover and the biggest GameFi project in the space, there are opportunities, and there are different solutions that I think a lot of different projects are going to be running. And it sounds like your project has seen what Axie may or may not have done wrong, and they want to do things a little bit better. You want to do things in a way that creates that sustainable economy and creates that balance between the two tokens. So I do like that you touched on that. Now,
yeah. Sorry if I keep on interrupting you.
Oh no, it's okay.
Is that right?
No, we're just chatting. It's all right.
It's super interesting. I think, like, one thing I'd say, and I'm always very careful. Like, you got to look at what someone's done right, and if you're going to learn from it as a game developer, what you think they could have done better. In hindsight, so you're not accusing anyone of anything. You're just sort of saying, okay, the learning from this is,
Yes.
the post-mortem is. Look, I think one thing we often sort of say is, I can put it in the other people's words. A lot of people that we talk to don't play Axie Infinity for fun. It's pretty much an earning thing, and a lot of people that we've spoken to have just said, well, like, we can't find it fun. Like, it's kind of, it's not. A lot of people think that, this is not my opinion, a lot of people think that it's not a fun game first.
Yeah.
And for us, what we think is important is, if you think about the broader game market, if you've got games out there that have got, it's a $200 billion game industry, you got games that have played millions of hours just because they're fun. We kind of use that as the point of, like, if you can make a game super fun and then add the play to earn mechanic, to have people sort of getting rewards out and having an ecosystem, that's just like the double whammy. So yeah, that's another very important point of the learnings from Axie Infinity, besides just the tool token model.
Yeah, it's something that myself and our CMO Ben have both talked about on these different live streams or in events that we've been able to actually go out, meet the community, meet different projects. Is it doesn't seem yet, in my opinion specifically, that any project has at this current stage been able to balance that trichotomy aspect of sustainable income and sustainable income throughout the course of gameplay, technological innovation, so smart contract innovation, NFT innovation, but also creating a game that is fun to play. Mm-hmm. That's I think the battle that a lot of people in the market right now are trying to overcome, is they're trying to balance those three aspects in a way that they create immersive gameplay experiences that match the technological innovation that they are working on as a development team, but also a game that's fun to play, that they're able to earn sustainable income from. It's something that a lot of different projects are working on in the space, and I think a lot of projects are going to be successful in that manner, but that the fun aspect has to be at the core of it. Because if I'm just clicking a button, earning income from doing it, it's not, in my mind, that's not as sustainable as logging into a game that I really want to play, that I've had an 8, 10, 12-hour workday. All I want to do is sit at my computer and I want to play that game.
Yeah.
So
and you can happen to earn something while you're at it, but that's not the point.
Exactly.
To get there, like, yeah.
Exactly. I want to log on and I want to play the game first. In my mind, that's what's most important. But that's just me talking as a gamer. And you and I'm assuming you've been a gamer for a long time with as much experience you have in the industry. I've been a gamer for 20 years. All I'm looking for is just that next big title that I can just really dig my teeth into and just sit down and play for hours and hours and hours on end.
Mhm.
Now,
Yep.
I do want to get to one of our community questions here. We had a question, and it kind of goes in line with one of the questions that I had for you later on. Um, they're talking about Phantasma Chain,
Mhm.
and for those who may not know, Wonderman Nation is primarily building on Phantasma Chain with interoperability to BNB Chain, formerly BSC, right now. But one of the questions that we have from our community members, Rewaterks, I butchered that. I apologize. I will tag you in the chat. I will tag you in the chat. Make sure that you send us your Twitter information after I tag you here. They do ask, are you guys planning to take control of the Phantasma chain and be the blue chip of the chain? So, so I before we answer that question, I do want to talk about the decision to build on Phantasma chain and the benefits that go along with it. So, if obviously I think everybody or each project in this space, they are doing their best to be at the forefront of the game. They want to be the top title. I don't think there's any debate about that. Each GameFi project in this space, that's what they want to be. But specifically on Phantasma Chain, it's not a chain that a lot of people in the ChainBoost and ChainGuardians community might be as familiar with. ChainBoost specifically, we're more interoperable with Ethereum, Binance Smart Chain, Polygon, Avalanche. Phantasma Chain is a little bit of a new one. So if you wouldn't mind, I do want to branch off of this question just a little bit. And I want to ask you about the decision to build on Phantasma Chain and specifically the benefits that might come to it as a GameFi project.
Yeah, cool. Sounds good. Sorry, that question was so hilarious. It's like a position like, is this a takeover? Are you gonna
Yes,
become like,
you will own Phantasma
yeah,
Chain at the end of it.
we are Phantasma Chain. So yeah, like I mentioned earlier on in the chat, we've come at blockchain development for gaming in a different way to probably a lot of people, not everyone, but to a lot of people. And that was that I'd been thinking about the need of a digital token. So forget a blockchain for a second. I was designing in my head for a digital token in gaming since 2000. 2010, we built our company to do that. Like we even built our own engine from scratch just so that we'd have our own technology for when we did this and we couldn't get taken down by an engine holder if they didn't want us to do broadcasting with esports, etc. So we've been building towards this for a long time. So with that in mind, coming to needing, like we saw blockchain when it started, we thought, this could be the solution for us. But we had a very specific purpose that we needed, and that was to build the fun games that we thought would use these tokens. So when we started looking at it, when Ethereum was launched, we started looking at that. Even in the earlier days, we were just looking at like, okay, this is a great kind of proof of concept for what we need, but it's not sustainable. It's too slow and the costs are too high. It's cost prohibitive. It's awkward to use. The general gamer doesn't know how to use it, and they don't want to pay gas fees. And I think at the time that we're looking at, I think gas fees for minting NFTs were like 30-40 cents. And they were taking too long. Like, well, gamers aren't going to be happy with that. Like, we can't pre-mint all these things and have gamers waiting and have $1 million worth of NFTs sitting there so we can sell them. This is just it's not sustainable.
Yeah.
So we spent a lot of time looking around. I had some of my friends kind of out online on Telegram channels trying to find the right chain, and it just boiled down to we found Phantasma Chain and Dara Chain, who there were some ex-Neo developers who had essentially left Neo saying, okay, well, you guys aren't building the future. We want to build the future. And they built that with gaming in mind. So it's a layer one. Now it gets to the question. It's a layer one blockchain solution that's built not specifically for games, but it's built for games and other things like that. So the idea being that it's smart NFTs, it's super fast. The gas fees are low. It's proof of stake chain. It's carbon negative because it's so efficient. So it's good for the environment. It really ticks all the boxes from like an ecological point of view, from a business point of view, and from a gamer point of view.
Yeah, I like that you touched on the ecological aspect as well, especially people in the gaming community, the art community especially. When they hear about blockchain, one of the things that they focus on, and one of kind of the barriers to entry almost for them getting into the GameFi space, is that environmental element. The fact that Bitcoin mining, Ethereum mining, how it's just the carbon emissions from it are very, very unsustainable, bad for the environment. So I like that you touch on that aspect as well, because with gamers, with people that are interested in art, so more of the people that would be interested in play to earn, NFTs, it's always a barrier to entry and always something that's kind of at the back of their mind. So building on a blockchain that's carbon negative, carbon neutral, it just makes the world of a difference. It's one of those things in my mind that'll help end up pushing that mass adoption of blockchain gaming and of NFTs, is creating not just something that's needed in the market, an ability to play video games, earn money, and ultimately help create financial freedom for a lot of people, depending on how they leverage their play to earn aspects, but also something that's going to be long-term sustainable for the environment as well. So I like that you touch on that aspect too.
Yeah, kind of just quick say, it's kind of the win-win there. If something's cheap and efficient, then it's great for business. Like like something that doesn't take too long and you can cover the cost. It's great for business. You're not going to pay too much money. You're not going to wait too long, and it's great for the customer, and it's great for the environment. It's a win-win-win basically.
Yeah, I was just going to use that term, win-win-win. The consumers win, in that they don't need to spend all their hard-earned money just to pay gas fees on the network that they're trying to operate on and they're trying to play on. As a business, obviously, same thing. You don't need to pay nearly as many gas fees. And for the environmentally conscious Phantasma chain, you don't even need to worry about it. It's carbon negative. So not even something that's a second thought.
Yeah.
Now, I do want to get back to one of our community questions here that's in the chat, which, by the way, if you don't have the YouTube chat pull up the YouTube chat, because I don't want to be the gatekeeper for all of the questions that we have today. If there's any questions that you see in the chat, I do want you to be able to call that out too. But we got a question from Brian, who's asking about breeding. They ask about breeding. I saw in the ChainBoost page that I'm assuming they being the NFTs would need food. Will this be like Axie breeding, where there's a limit on how many times you can breed, as well as equivalent of AXS and SLP? So talking a little bit about breeding and what goes into that process.
Yeah, sure. So I'll make one caveat, is like as game designers, we sort of like may need to change some things as we go. Like that's the game evolution model. But the way it stands currently is that so Wonder's used for purchasing creatures. At this stage, not used for breeding. The Nectar token is used for breeding, so that's the primary token that you need to breed. Beyond that, there is a limit to the amount of times the creature can breed. That's just sort of like puts like a natural cap on the expansion of the creature ecosystem. The food NFTs, I should touch on those. So we have food NFTs which can be used, we say, to like augment breeding. So the idea there is like you can use it to speed up breeding, so that kind of makes it faster. So it's kind of like throwing a bit more party food into the breeding party for these creatures. But also basing, like depending on the food and the creatures that you're breeding, that can be used to sort of draw out different attributes, so that you get, because the attributes cross between the creatures, so it can kind of help to accentuate one feature over another.
Okay, I like it. So, Brian, I hope that answers your question. And Brian Rewatcherks, again, absolutely butchered that. I apologize. Make sure that you drop your Twitter information in the comment box there. You are winning IDO whitelist spots, so congratulations. Thank you for providing your questions. And guys, if you have more questions for Garth, make sure that you drop it in the comment box there. Again, we're still giving away IDO whitelist spots. We'll be giving away cash prizes as well. Now, Garth, we are on entirely different parts of the world. I know it's getting a little bit late your time. I only do have one or two more questions for you myself before we get into some of the more audience-oriented questions. Specifically, I do want to talk a little bit more about that two-token model and kind of the dichotomy between the two. So we've touched on it a little bit, just with the Nectar token, with the Wonder token, kind of how those tokens are going to be interacting with each other, but also I want to touch on the interoperability aspect. We've talked about Phantasma Chain primarily being the chain that Wonderman Nation is building on, but we also know, or a lot of people that might have looked at the ChainBoost project page as well, they know that the IDO is actually happening on BNB chain, and the token distribution will be on BNB chain. So I do want to ask you a little bit, not just about the two token model that you have, but also just to ask you, will both tokens be interoperable on multiple chains, or if one of them, the Nectar token specifically, if that's going to be confined to Phantasma chain instead of being interoperable with other chains as well?
Yeah, so on the first point, just interoperability in general, that's a big feature of the Phantasma chain. They've got a great. It's kind of like any currency in the world. You can't have just US dollars that can't be transferred to Australian dollars. In my case, that's where I am. So interoperability is the future, and that's one of the things that Phantasma chain is focusing on. So they're already interoperable with Ethereum and Binance chain. So the tokens will be interoperable between both chains. So for the people in your community, if they buy the BNB token version, they can take that straight to exchanges, or they can swap it into Phantasma chain and into Pavilion Hub, and then use that to play the game and buy assets for the game, etc. And that will apply for both the Wonder token and the Nectar token.
Nice. Okay, perfect. Now, the last question that I have, and again, I do want to get into some audience questions before we sign off here. I do want to talk about the roadmap for Wonderman Nation. And this, for a lot of people that may not know, peel back the curtain a little bit, Wonderman Nation is a project that we've actually been talking to for a while. So very happy to be on the live stream today because IDO is right around the corner. I know both of our teams have put in a lot of work already to get this up and running and to get this IDO going. But I do want to talk about the future and what the future holds for Wonderman Nation. So if you wouldn't mind me asking, for the rest of the quarter, for the rest of 2022, what's on the roadmap for Wonderman Nation? What are you guys going to be focusing on over the course of the next few months here?
Yep. So we've got, I guess the next things will be beyond IDO will be staking. So the staking the Wonder token for receiving the Nectar token. The creature sales, so we're doing initial creature sales, and so essentially opening up the breeding so people can start to interact with the breeding mechanics before the game opens up. And then we've got on our development roadmap, we've got Q2 will be our internal alpha build, and then the beta build, which will be going to some closed beta public people, will be in Q3 this year, and then Q4 is the public release. Okay. And as I mentioned, we have the two games as well, so we're releasing them. We're sort of not exactly sure. We might release them at exactly the same time, or they might be stepped releases.
Okay, perfect. But for those who are interested in playing the game, full release, you mentioned Q4 of this year, correct?
That's right, yeah.
Got it. Okay, so when that happens, and it might not just be one game, it might be both. So
it might be both, yeah.
So
yeah. Oh, look, I mean, I should mention, like, we actually have plans to make more games in this ecosystem too, right? So yeah,
more games.
Surprised if there's a third and fourth.
More games in the ecosystem, but at least on the roadmap for you guys, full release of primary game. It sounds like Q4 this year, potentially the second game as well. I'm assuming with said third, said fourth title, maybe a little bit further down the road compared to those first two in Q4. Is that right?
Well, no, not necessarily. So one of them, for example, is I can't say too much about it, but one of them is kind of a NFT tokenified community thing. I can't say too much more about it, but it's a thing that we're working on with Pavilion Hub already. So it's kind of anyway. So there could be some other things outside of just straight gaming, more community-based things.
Gotcha. Okay, so just teasing us a little bit, just that little bit of alpha for us.
Yeah.
I appreciate that, Garth. Thank you. All right, Garth, let me ask you, do you have the YouTube chat pulled open?
No, I don't.
No? Okay. All right. I'll tell you what, while you're pulling that up, we do have a lot of really good questions from the community. I do want to get into some of them. And guys, just so you know, we are giving away BUSD. We are giving away $300 worth of BUSD. So for the 4 or 5 of you that have your questions selected, you will be eligible for those cash prizes. Again, just make sure that after your question is answered, if it is answered, that you drop your handle in the comment section there. So that way we know exactly who to reach out to on Twitter and coordinate that prize.
Okay, yep, I've got it open.
Okay, perfect. Now, Garth, Are there any questions in that chat that stand out to you? Anything that maybe we didn't touch on during our conversation, kind of the questions that I had for you that you want to be able to talk about a little bit before we sign off here today?
Yeah, sure.
And if you don't have any that pop up immediately, I think I have a couple of pretty good ones. Ultimate Gamer X has been absolutely crushing it with the comments today and with the questions. I do want to make sure that we get to one of his questions. So this one, ultimately, is just talking about the gaming ecosystem. He asks, can you explain to me in short what the gameplay loop in Wonderman Nation is going to be? So I'm assuming when he asked that question, he's talking about the main title, the main game that's in development right now. So talking a little bit about the gameplay loop, and I'm assuming also the economic aspect as well. So just kind of how that'll function in the ecosystem.
Yeah, sure. Okay. Okay. But if I go super detailed, that's probably like an hour-long answer. So I'll keep it kind of like bullet point brief.
Okay.
Actually, you know what? I mean, this probably leads into excuse me. This probably leads into a question which we as a point that we haven't actually brought up, which is super key. To do with the user experience. Like, this is kind of before the question, but this is a very important point. Is like the gameplay, because there's the whole game. There's a gameplay loop, then there's the whole gameplay user experience, right? The onboarding. So one thing that's really important to mention is it's going to be a browser-based game. So it's like cross-platform, cross-device. So it's very easy to get into. No downloads or installs necessary. And you can just create an account on Pavilion Hub to get playing. So you don't need to. So players don't have to get onto exchanges and get cryptocurrencies to get involved. So it's a very easy user experience. And again, there's a free-to-play aspect to this. So if you don't purchase creatures, you can just rent creatures from the live marketplace. So other players. This kind of comes into another question I saw. In terms of the NFT sales and the whales, which we'll get to. So, but so if people have creatures, they can stake them into that. So it's like a guild inside the game. They can stake them into the marketplace. Other players can come in and borrow them, and then play them, and then they split the rewards. So that's the kind of initial loop in. So it's very seamless, and there are no barriers to entry. Inside the game itself, before the battle, so there's the two games. Before the battle game launches, you've got the team selection. So it's a random choice. One player will get to choose a team. Depending on which team you choose, you get to choose your characters, and then there's a character choice player. So again, that's kind of the League of Legends things where you choose characters to counteract or play well against each other and play well with the environment. So you need to know what environment you're in to choose the right characters for the environment. Like, for example, if there's a lot of water in the environment, you might want to choose a water creature, and vice versa. If there's no water there, maybe a water creature won't win. So you've got your team, you choose your items, so you get different items for each team, and then it's kind of a standard battle where you can do your actions against each other. But I guess, again, there's the environment, so there's environmental choices, there's attack choices, defense choices, special moves. So each player kind of goes through that main loop. Within the game, for the cross-play metaverse stuff, within the game you can discover food NFTs and ship hard NFTs. So depending on whether you just want to play the battle game or whether you want to play that Metaverse arcade title as well, you can then construct your ship hard NFTs to build your ship and then load it into the Metaverse play and then fill it with a wonder and go off and do the arcade exploration. It's kind of like a Gallagher, Jarvis kind of old school 80s arcade mechanic for the exploration.
Okay, so nice.
That's the general loop.
Perfect. I do always love the element of environmental based gameplay as well. You touched on that a little bit, and me personally, I grew up in the 90s, so me, big Pokemon guy. So I know we talked about previous games having different impacts on Wonderman Nation, obviously with your experience in gaming and working in major studios. I always go to the most simplistic example I can think of. It's just that environmental element of the gameplay being Pokemon and the different gyms that people would be able to travel to. It's something that a lot of people, especially people that are very, very early on into blockchain gaming or, kind of millennial Gen Z crowd, it's something that they know a lot about. So I do like that element of it as well. Ultimate Gamer, please make sure that you drop your Twitter handle in the comments. I've already asked it right there, but I want to make sure that we reach out to the right person. You are winning BUSD. Congratulations. Now, if you do have questions, keep them coming. Garth, I know that you have the comment box open as well.
I can go if you like.
Yeah, is there any question that stands out to you? Maybe something, just something that we haven't talked about, or a winner that we have not selected? Anything that stands out to you here?
Yeah, well, there was one. I actually have to find it again. It's kind of moved now, but I think
Got it.
I think it may have been the same person. So I guess they get one prize if it's related. But there was a comment there about the creature sales and it being sort of fair and not sort of taken over by whales. Um, can't see what that question is again. But yeah, so like we're going to be doing the first NFT sales across the platform. So we're doing something on Pavilion Hub, and we're still to work out exactly where we do all the others, but we've got some other platforms in mind for where we'll be releasing the first NFTs. So there'll be limits on how many people can buy. But one of the sort of key points there that I kind of just mentioned, just to tap back into it, was that there's not a limitation for owning the creature yourself. So there's no kind of like lockout for players. If they don't own a creature, you can just jump in, you can get creatures out of the stake marketplace anyway and split the reward. So so that's our solution there.
Okay, perfect. And
Yeah.
I believe that question came from Christopher Ruiz. So Christopher, please make sure that you provide your Twitter handle in the comment box there. I do want to touch on the IDO aspect as well. If you're unfamiliar with ChainBoost, if you've never done an IDO on our platform, every IDO that we do, it is an equal distribution or an equal contribution opportunity for every user. What we do is it is a set number of users and a set contribution total. If you are selected to participate in the IDO, the only amount that you will be able to contribute is that set in stone amount there. I believe for the Wonderman Nation IDO, it's going to be $500 on the BNB chain. So it is a completely fair IDO. There's nobody who's going to be able to get a bigger allocation than the next person. You don't got to worry about that on ChainBoost. It's all equal for everybody that participates. So again, Chris, please make sure that you get your Twitter handle down in the comment box there as well. I'll tag it just so you remember. All right.
I have another question that we should get to straight away. I think.
Perfect. Okay.
This is kind of a funny one. I've been laughing. Like Wonderman Nation has a lot of comedy and a lot of wackiness to it. And so one of the questions for the launch pads has been about the space pigeon and whether he's not so great or if he's amazing or if he's epic.
I've seen a lot of questions about the space pigeon too.
This cracks me up. I'm having so much fun. Like when we're making Wonderman Nation, we're actually laughing quite a lot. Like we make it fun and we make sure that if we're laughing when we're making it, then we know that we can sort of spread the joy. So yeah, I'll kind of give the answer here. The epic space pigeon is one of our characters that so epic is the answer to that question. It's one of the characters that we have a lot of fun with. It's kind of like the sort of arch nemesis of Wonderman Nation, but Wonderman doesn't actually know that he exists because he's too oblivious with his own sort of cockiness and confidence, and so they kind of have this known unknown battle throughout the story. So epic space pigeon is that if people search, they'll find it in the white paper, and there's actually even a Twitter handle for epic space pigeon, which I
oh no way.
which that's just me having a laugh. I just jump in there. I don't tweet much from it, but I just occasionally use it to poke fun at Wonderman Nation. I kind of poke fun at our own tweets. So
oh gosh,
yeah, that's what that's about.
It's so meta.
It's so meta. It's so meta. But it's hilarious. Yeah.
All right, Garth, do you remember who asked that question? Which user we are going to be giving away prizes to there?
Yeah, it's Iki or Ike, IKY.
IKY. Okay, perfect. I'll make sure I tag them in the chat here. Get them the rewards after the live stream. All right, I think we have time for about 2 more questions here. Are there any more that stand out to you there, Garth? Anything that you want to touch on? And if you don't have any, I actually do have one here.
You go.
And it kind of goes back to the conversation that we were having about the decision to build on Phantasma Chain. I can't remember which user asked it. I'll try to find it here in a second. But they were asking about that decision and how come the decision was made to build on Phantasma Chain as opposed to the more popular chains. So given ETH, Polygon, BNB chain, we touched on a little bit about the kind of benefits of building on Phantasma Chain, but what this user is asking, I guess, is there are blockchains that have much bigger user bases and a lot more attention on those given chains. Phantasma Chains is a little bit of a smaller chain. So I think what they're asking is why build on a smaller chain, a little bit more of a rare network, as opposed to one of the bigger ones like Polygon, AVAX, BNB chain.
Yeah, sure. I think in a lot of ways, I would say it's good to kind of reframe your perspective of what a chain is. And we see a chain as a back end, and often say to people, okay, well, like Steam, what's Steam's back end? What database do they? Because the blockchain is essentially a database, right? It's a database ledger. So like, okay, Steam, like what database do they use? Do you know, and do you care? You don't care, right? It's just it's the back end of their amazing platform where they have all these amazing games and people love it. So we see it in the same way. So we went with the technology that could do what we needed it to do, so we could deliver the experience that we needed to deliver, rather than focusing on how much attention that particular solution is getting.
Yeah, exactly. It's a tool for backend development, and
Hmm.
ultimately there's a lot of different blockchains out there. I don't think a lot of users quite comprehend just how many different layer ones, layer twos there are in the greater crypto ecosystem, but there's a ton. And
Hmm.
ultimately it boils down to, I imagine as a dev, I'm not a dev, I'm one of the marketing people. So all this stuff is just beyond me. But I imagine it boils down to the accessibility aspect, how easy it is to build on that chain, how easy it is to customize your experience. Obviously, we talked about gas fees and my environmental impact, things like that. There's
Hmm.
a lot of small, a lot of large decisions that go into that as well. But
Hmm.
ultimately, I think it's really cool that you guys are branching out and doing something a little bit different than specifically the ChainBoost audience is accustomed to. Like I mentioned earlier, a lot of our audiences, they're familiar with Avalanche, they're familiar with Polygon, BNB chain, and
Hmm.
with your project with Wonderman, it creates that opportunity for users to go a little bit deeper into blockchain, to maybe explore not just Phantasma chain, but also some of the more lesser known or rare blockchains as well. And there's a lot of
Hmm.
different benefits that we talked about with building on Phantasma chain. So I think it's cool to just raise that question, because ultimately it it does start that conversation of, okay, are the bigger blockchains that are out there, are they the best ones, or are there some up and coming chains that might be hot on their heels that offer different elements and different kind of competitive advantages compared to the bigger chains? So I like that question because it does kind of challenge that notion a little bit, but creates an
Hmm.
opportunity to learn, and
Yeah,
that's what I
the
think is
challenge
most
is kind of
important.
where we think it's going to, and we kind of talked about it before,
Yeah.
is interoperability. Like, I don't think one chain is going to win. There's multiple different backends, databases in the world. There
Hmm.
doesn't have to be just MongoDB
Yes.
or MariaDB. Like, they can all exist, and everyone can use different things. It's kind of it will become a bit more irrelevant as we get to the next stage of blockchain usage.
Yeah. It.
Mm.
I've always been a proponent of there's no one blockchain to rule them all,
Mm.
and obviously right now Ethereum is the bigger one or the biggest kind of smart contract platform in the ecosystem, but
Mm.
there are a lot of different blockchains that are out there, a lot of different layer ones, layer twos, even layer zeros that are doing
Mm.
things completely different from Ethereum that offer their own advantages. So,
Yeah,
again, full proponent of that.
yeah.
All right, Garth, we have time for one more question here before we start signing off. Is there anything in the chat that you want to call out? Anybody specifically that you want to provide some of our words to?
All right, give me 2 seconds.
Oh,
I'm too busy talking to be reading
oh,
the question.
totally fine, totally
Yeah.
fine. Well,
So if you have anything burning with like this is a great question, absolutely call it out. Um, I'm going through a lot of the stuff we've covered. So
okay,
um,
yeah, and
do you have anything?
nothing in particular. I was just going to remind the ChainBoost community that if they are interested in participating in Wonderman Nation again, the IDO is going to happen on the 21st, so that's going to be next Thursday. If you haven't already expressed interest, completed KYC, go to chainboost.io right now. If you're liking what you're hearing with the live stream today, if you're liking the chat that we're having with Garth, make sure that you register. Don't miss your chance to participate. We've talked about a lot of different things here. We've talked about interoperability. We've talked about the customization that comes with Phantasma Chain, that 2 token model with the Wonder token being that DAO governance token and a utility token within the ecosystem. There's a lot of really cool and exciting things that Wonderman Nation is building here. And for
Yeah.
those who might not have heard it, who are just tuning in now, full release of the game expected Q4 of this year. potentially even a second title going along with that as well. So make sure that you look out.
All right. So look, I mean, if I can, there are actually kind of two questions which I think are good, and one of them is by someone who already had a question answered. So maybe we'll do that one second. Somebody's asked a question about burning the tokens.
Okay.
Which is an interesting question. So this is something that Axie are trying to do now to fix their oversupply problem. So we have plans to not be burning tokens. That's the way we're designing. We're designing it so that tokens are always kind of going out in the sort of correct supply demand level, so that you don't have to then go off and just burn things just to try to like get the sort of supply and demand back in balance.
Okay.
So burning currently is on our list. That question comes up, so I thought it was good to address it. But by all means, like we'll be looking at the analytics and the data to make sure that everything is in balance. So if burning of tokens becomes a thing that we have to do in future, we will. But I think we'll be avoiding it. Okay,
perfect. And Garth, which user was it that asked that question? Do you have their name pulled up there?
You always ask these great questions, and I always forget. I think it was nearby where I am. It was a little bit earlier on.
Okay.
Sorry. I'll find it.
Okay. Well, while you're finding that name, I do want to just recap a little bit about what we've already talked about. Again, Wonderman Nation IDO happening on the 21st. Next week is actually going to be a very, very busy week for ChainBoost. We have the DECE IDO or INO happening on the 18th on Monday. We have the Remnant Labs IDO happening on the 19th, Tuesday, and the Wonderman Nation IDO happening on the 21st, next Thursday. There's a lot of cool, really exciting things happening in the ChainBoost ecosystem. So if you haven't created an account already, if you haven't logged on, expressed interest in these projects, we got a lot of really cool projects up and coming here, Wonderman Nation especially. Now.
Yeah, I can't find it again.
Couldn't find it. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So I guess whoever wrote it, they can just write in again, and we'll have a look through for the burning of tokens.
Oh yeah, and I can go through the chat here in just a second, and once we conclude the live stream, and I can go in and find who asked that question, tag them in chat. So we do want to make sure that we get rewards to the right people. So if you were the one asking about token burning mechanisms, things like that, make sure that you drop your Twitter handle in the description here. We will find it in just a minute. Tag in chat just in case you forget.
Yep.
Right.
And another question that was just kind of a fun one was from Ultimate Gamer X about any possible interoperability between NFTs and ChainGuardians and Wonderman Nation. So I thought that was a funny one. So I guess I'd just say, hey, like, if it's fun, I'm happy. I'm open to the conversation. I'm always open to the conversation about creating more fun and more cross-chain, cross-game. Yeah, cross-chain, cross-game. Let's coin that right there.
Cross-chain, cross-game, cross-ChainGuardians. Think a lot of different kind of fun verbiages we can throw out there. As far as any aspect of that, whether ChainGuardians NFTs will be interoperable and will coincide with Wonderman Nation NFTs. Unfortunately for the ChainBoost community, I am not involved in those conversations. I am simply the social media manager. So if anything like that ever does happen in the future, I'll be the one communicating it to you, but I probably won't know that far in advance. So apologies to the person who asked that question. There's not a lot that I can share with you. Maybe if Ben, who's in the comment section right now, was in the live stream, he'd be able to give you a different answer. But me personally, that's not something that I'll be able to provide, unfortunately.
The way it works is you need to say it so, and then the development team needs to go off and do it because you just said it happened. So that's the way. You got to use your power.
Yep, just message the devs in Discord and go, hey, I just announced something. It's not in our plans. We just got to do it, make it happen.
I promised it. I promised it. So.
Oh yeah, that's always the fun battle between the marketing team and the development team. Is marketing team going, hey, we want to do this, and the development team going, yeah, we can do that, or just going, no, that's not possible. Like,
yeah,
it's always that fun kind of back and forth with the development team there.
Yeah,
I know that they absolutely hate the marketing guys because we talk about a lot of stuff and they're just like, hey, give us a little bit more time. We got this.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, by the way, I found the person who asked the burning question.
Oh, you did. Perfect.
I did. Yeah. So Brian Zilla 2133.
It was Brian.
133.
Oh, okay. Well,
133. Brian
okay.
Zilla.
Brian already won a prize today, but
Oh, did he? Oh, well.
oh yeah, he did. Brian was one of our IDO winners here. But don't worry, Brian.
Okay.
We're not going to retract that prize for him yet. We're going to make sure that we get you that IDO spot. You did win it fair and square.
Yeah.
All right, Garth. I know it is very very late on your side of the world here, so I do want to start kind of wrapping up and signing off. Is there anything that we did not get the chance to talk about today that you want to mention real quick before we sign off? Any kind of final thoughts for the ChainBoost community?
Ooh, tough one. I guess like in terms of talking about Wonderman Nation, I think we've covered all the good stuff. So I guess I'll just sign off by saying thanks to everyone for tuning in. Thank you, ChainGuardians and ChainBoost for having us involved. Yeah, we've been talking to you guys for months now, so it's super exciting to be finally here and finally doing this and finally reaching out to the community. Yeah, we've always had a really good alignment. I knew that from when I first spoke to you guys. So I feel like our communities will work well together. So yeah, so like I say, please join our communities. Check out our Telegram, check out our Discord, come and have a chat with us, and keep on hassling ChainGuardians to put some NFTs in Wonderman Nation or vice versa.
Yeah, you touched on that. We've been talking about this a lot, and honestly, it's been an absolute pleasure working with your team. We have been in talks for many months here, trying to line up the IDO, trying to line up all the marketing that goes into this. So it really is a pleasure to have you on here because I've absolutely loved working with your team. So again, thank you for taking time out of your day. I know you're very busy. I know it is very very late. So
2 a.m. here right now. So yeah.
Oh yeah. All right, and then real quick, I do just want to remind the ChainBoost community that the DECE INO is happening on Monday, Remnant Labs IDO on Tuesday, Wonderman Nation IDO happening on Thursday. There's a lot to be excited about in ChainBoost next week, so make sure that you log into ChainBoost.io, express interest in the projects you want to get involved in. And just so you know, this isn't going to be the last live stream for a while. We are going to be back here next Monday. We are going to be having a live stream with Remnant Labs here as well, so make sure that you tune into that. And last thing I want to touch on before we sign off here, if you tuned into the live stream today, if your question was not selected, you did not win one of the IDO whitelist spots or any BUSD, we are going to be doing a separate giveaway that'll be going live here shortly. So stay tuned for that. It will be on Twitter, so make sure that you're following ChainBoost on Twitter so you can get all the information there. All right, Garth, again, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for taking time out of your day to come in, hang out with the ChainBoost community, and hang out with me.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks for having us, guys.
All right, thanks everybody. Take care. Have a great weekend. Stay safe.
注がれた光の雨瞳に映ったこの世界を守るため立ち向かうそれは心も痩せがせの隅でまた霞み始めてる決意揺らぎそうでも閉ざされた空その鍵を壊せばそう握られた刃はまだ持て余されて加速する共鳴が言霊を脈打たせてく注がれた光の雨瞳に映ったこの世界を守るため決意を新たにつなぎ絶やさない ける憎しみや恨みを生んでしまうのかもしれない正解のない世界に苦しんでそれでも受け止め我らは叫ばなければいけないと心が熱い思い描いた自由への象形僕の意図であろう君の願いであろうそうで叶えることもあれと悔いやくなれることもいつの日かできな信じたのは一輪の花触れてくれてその特別あがいてもがいて旅へもやりながらも永遠の中にわずか輝くそれをその手に掴み取り勝ち取るためにはまた立ち上がる思い描いた自由への勝利的な僕の血肉となり君の魂となりそうで叶えることはあれと悔いやくなれることもいつの日か的な日差探せが大輪の花永遠の中で掴んだ未来を注がれた光の雨瞳に映ったこの世界を守るため立ち向かうそれは心も痩せがせネオンライトが市街の隅でまた霞み始めてる決意揺らぎそうでも閉ざされた空